Ryan Seacrest with you. Tanya, Patty, Sissany on maternity leave. And Alicia Keys coming back in. Alicia, it's nice to see you. How are you?
I'm amazing. How are you?
I'm doing well. There's a couple things that we want to get to with you. Noted Alicia Keys, The Untold Stories. This on YouTube. These are
Yes.
conversations. There's some real raw and vulnerable things in this. What were some of the most challenging? I don't know if it's the right word. Difficult. What were some of the most tender moments for you?
I mean, I think that there's definitely a lot of moments, and I love this. I love this noted series. It's so good, and I actually didn't even expect to be so. I don't know. I didn't even expect it to come together the way that it has. I love it. I can't wait for y'all to see it if you haven't seen it already. Everybody who has seen it has just told me like they can see my rawness, that they learned things about me that they never knew before. My husband said, like, babe, I'm learning things about you I never knew about you. It's kind of deep. People that I've known
Wow.
for a really long time are like, I didn't know that, or I didn't realize that, or whatever. And I think that's the case. So I think some of the tenderest moments, there's a really deep conversation with my mother, that I ask her a lot of questions that I never maybe even thought to ask her or got a chance to ask her before, even about her relationship as a single mother, her relationships with me, her relationships with, that that responsibility of being a single mother to me and how that went for her. There's some really tender conversations about me and my first, the person that I produced with first, Crucial, who has been a really important part in my musical journey and was also, my first, real like relationship within this world, and kind of understanding what happened there, or what could, how that went. That was really deep, those revelations. There was a really tender moment with my father and I. That's the first time that I kind of got to ask him about any regrets that he had. I didn't grow up with him, and so our relationship is a new one that's starting, in the past 5 years, really becoming something that I never thought we would have. So it's kind of all of those pieces, and even just about womanhood, about fear and judgment and all these things that I think we all battle with in our lives. So it's something else. Even when I look at it, I'm really happy with it.
Starting with your mother for a second, I'm just like, unless you're in a scenario or situation where you're challenging yourself to ask things you might not normally ask around the table. Why would we ask? Like, I know that I sit with my parents sometimes over a holiday meal, and I'm like, I don't think I knew that about mom and dad.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
Like, you're almost forced to go there.
You know what? You're so right. That's what I was thinking the other day too. I was thinking like, you love the people that you love in your life so much, and especially our parents. Like they're such a big part of who we are and how we grow up, but we don't actually interface with them in an intimate, in an intimate way on their behalf.
Right.
They are definitely interfacing with us in an intimate way on our behalf all the time, but on their behalf. So I think you're so right. And actually when it finished, there were so many things I asked her that didn't even make it on there, which got even deeper. But
Right, I'm sure.
but afterwards I was just saying how grateful I was that we had that conversation, because I think we have to spend even more time with each other one-on-one, just in our relationships, because there's always people around. Even
Yeah,
with
I
your
do
loved
know.
ones, it's always
I,
people.
I do know. And I also find it, even though it's so bizarre, Alicia, my job is to ask questions, yet I'm
True.
completely uncomfortable and awkward asking really intimate questions to my parents.
And what about like your, even like your kids or your wife, or like, do you feel that same way, or is it only your parents?
Well, when I get married and have kids, I'm coming back to you to tell you everything about it. You
I
know?
didn't realize you didn't have kids.
Yes, Alicia, I'm the last one. I'm the last one here.
All
No,
right,
Tanya
listen.
also. Yeah,
Yeah,
but I'm
yeah, yeah.
thinking, I'm
It's fine.
focused on it actually. Like I now
So
know, I want, but I didn't know that till recently. It's in my untold stories.
listen,
Um,
it's okay. It's all right. We'll get into your untold stories, Ryan. We got a
but
lot to talk about.
I want to
Math,
go back to your
kids.
dad. You mentioned your father, and in the last 5 years, you began to have this bond with him, and you said you weren't necessarily sure that would ever happen.
Right.
Have you gotten comfortable being with him one on one?
Yeah, That's really, really, again, I mean, even in that situation, I think there's always someone in the mix. So the ability to have a real true one-on-one is quite rare. And so I think that's actually what we saw in Untold Stories. You saw that first real one-on-one that I've kind of ever had. I mean, of course, we've had conversations and we've had phone calls, and there's been moments late at night we're both sitting on the couch, but like with that type of intention and asking those kind of questions about his life and how his experience was for him and any regrets that he might had in his life, and him being able to say that his biggest regret would be, our relationship, so that was the first time we were able to have that kind of really honest, forthright one-on-one. And I think we want to do more of it. One of the things he said was, I should have taken you on like walks on the beach. I should have maybe come to you and said like, hey, let's just go out, me and you, and cultivated that. And so when I called him after, before Noted aired, and I said, let's try to do some of those things. Let's not forget that we can still do those things. So it's definitely a healing process. And when you kind of open your mind to who people are as human beings, as opposed to who you think they're supposed to be to you, I think it's really freeing. And that was a big one for me. And I think that now we're going to be able to even go farther. And that's why I wanted to show that, because there
Yeah.
is a healing that can happen in relationships you don't think they can.
Alicia Keys with us. We're talking about Noted Alicia Keys, the Untold Stories on YouTube. Let me get a quick break. We'll come back with Alicia and talk new music. Hey, Alicia, before we get to your new music, we were talking about your YouTube special a few minutes ago. And Patty, weren't you telling me that your young kids want YouTube channels? Like,
oh yeah.
What's the intersection of decision making when it comes to kids and YouTube channels, Alicia? What do you think?
It's all about the YouTube channels. I'm sure I feel you, Patty, like 1,000,000%. And you're kind of trying to stave them off. You're trying to stave them off. Like I did the private one that you can send only to like family. Like you do a private one, and then you get the link and you send it to whoever you want to send it to. That's what I've done so far. That might work
that's
for
a
you,
great
Patty.
idea.
Mm-hmm,
That's a great idea.
So then they get their channel, but you control who sees it.
Yes.
And who can react to it.
Yeah, because like we don't want people on their channel saying God knows what to these kids.
Exactly.
It's like crazy. We have to protect them, and they don't see it like that. But that's not even the vibe. So because I'll come into YouTube and kill somebody. Like, don't talk about my kids some sideways way. I'll find you.
They're too young for those things right now.
No, it's too much, and it's too much to manage. I feel you, but that's the secret. I hope that works for you.
That's a great idea. I did not know you could do that. Thank you.
Let me play a little Lala for you here. It's Kiss FM. Sway Lee, Alicia Keys. There's a certain speed to the way you sway to that one, to Sway and Alicia. Yeah. There's a certain speed. There's a certain gear that you get into for that. I want to go back to something regarding your music and you as a public person and your father. So when you were breaking into the world of fame and music, you were not speaking to your father. Your career evolved and it was very public. What was when you sat down with him for the first time, his reaction to all of that you got so much later in life from him?
What do you mean? Like his reaction?
Well, he never had a chance to say, I'm proud of you, did he?
I mean,
when it was happening?
I think maybe not right at the beginning, because at that time I was very closed-minded and I felt like, I had a lot of anger issues that I had to work through and feelings that I had to work through. But so not right at the time. But I think that as time progressed, he has been able to say, at least I feel that he feels that way for sure. And so I think that's going to be part of the next conversation. I mean, we literally just got into him sharing with me that he wishes he would have been there more even for my mother. So I think the next sit down, we can move into some of that stuff.
I'm curious to know. I'm really curious. Well, I'm happy to see you. Thank you for coming on.
Wait, I have a question.
Featuring Sway Lee's out now.
I saw that you just celebrated your 11th anniversary, and I feel like you're a very intentional person. And I was wondering if you guys had any traditions that you do on your anniversary every single year.
I mean, the most important transition is that we definitely have, a very intimate, alone, just us. Like we do something together that's really special and just for us and celebrating our love. We definitely like to talk about what else we want. Like what do we want to see for ourselves as a couple, for ourselves as individuals, you know, and we kind of talk about that and we share it. And we also love to talk about what we love about each other. Like I'll say, like, no, seriously, what's your favorite thing about me today? And I'll tell him what's my favorite thing about him today. And so
That's fun.
I think there's definitely a lot of, you know, he's a big surpriser. I'm a big surpriser. We like to kind of surprise each other with special things and special moments. So we just have fun. We kind of have our little crazy competitions and all types of fun things, but it's good. It's really good. And I'm proud of us.
Oh, I love
Tanya, why don't
that.
you start surprising Socrates, your boyfriend?
I know.
right.
I'm really wanting to start some really like intentional traditions every single year, and I love that.
That's fire. That's a fire name too, man. That's a lot to live up to. Good God.
That's not his real name.
I call him that. That's his on-air name.
Okay.
That's his nickname from me.
All right, cool.
Alicia, great to see you. Take care. We'll see you soon.
Lots of love.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. Alicia Keys, everybody.